Welcome to the Myofascial Magic in Action podcast. My name's Joanne Avison, and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, co-founder and friend, Paul Thornley. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Joanne. How the devil are you, love?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Good.
Paul, we've been asked a lot of questions recently, and the theme that keeps coming through is the hidden language of your fascia. And I think it's one thing to talk about a hidden language, but it's quite another thing to translate it. And I often say, especially if I'm working with manual therapy clients, that my hands at least speak fluent fascia. They listen and they translate and they filter through my years of experience. And it's a bit like working with Braille, isn't it? Don't you find that when you're touching people, that the body gives you a feedback that is like a language, and you learn the different dialects, partly through experience, right?
Yeah, I think you build up a certain sensitivity to interpreting touch and contact. And even just being in the same room as somebody is a very intuitive reaction to atmosphere and how somebody feels when they arrive in pain. A lot of our clients arrive in discomfort, and you can sense it in the tone of their voice, the way they maneuver around you, how they introduce, how they guard themselves. Or likewise in classes, then you have the other one where they're very vibrant and they're quite overexcited or eager to get going to learn different movements. So yes, it's fine tuning, isn't it? And refining our ability to read the sensitivities of the individuals and how we're going to influence them with our words, our movement choices, or our manuals, techniques.
Well, I think it's quite a surprising fact that a lot of people don't realize that the fascia has more than an extensive network throughout the body, but it's actually got a major role in proprioception and what's called nociception, i.e. pain perception. And that by hearing it or listening to it or experiencing it through touch, and this is where the senses overlap, that we can actually transform the conversation around how somebody self-organizes and in very many cases avoids pain or relieves pain, I should say. And so I consider fascia to be a vital but overlooked component of the human body generally. You know, in the classical anatomy we don't learn it in the way that you and I have had the privilege to learn about it.
It's almost like an afterthought.
In a lot of cases, yes.
Yeah.
And I think its significance in health and movement is just great big huge, obviously. But in discussing like common misconceptions, what do you think? Give me a couple of things that you think people really don't realize about the fascia that are absolutely crucial.
Well, like you just alluded to there, it's hardly talked about with any significance on a lot of the classical educations you have to complete to become proficient at moving modalities or manual therapy. It's, it might get one, quite diluted explanation of what it is. And the standard is it's a connective tissue. And it's what surrounds and binds and introduces other elements and other structures together within the body. And it's quite generalized, I think. And it's not given any role of significance in actual movement. And it's certainly not given any sense of relationship to pain. However, having been around it for a long time like we have, we think about it with a lot more degree of reverence. It's such an important element of the body because without it, you don't exist.
Exactly.
And depending where you place it in its position of priority and hierarchy, it should be the first thing you talk about, in my personal view, because then you put things in a better position and place in a conversation.
I love that, because what you're basically saying, I think, is that, and we know that we think this, that there's this spiritual component, that we are all spiritual. We are all spirit animating a form in Earth School, in my opinion. And we don't know what that spirit is. It incorporates mystery, same as it incorporates history. And what you're basically saying is you honor that first by asking your client their story, right?
Life is a story and a series of chapters within a story. And each of those chapters unfolds as you live it, because you're living your life as much as people try to plan for it. And like any good plan, it fails when you start to unravel it and begin to do the plan. It almost falls apart in front of you. But it's good to have a plan.
Mm.
But like you say, yeah, fascia is, if you like, it's the narrator of our life stories in those various chapters as we develop, thrive, and then enjoy our elder years. And it's just how we interact with that story and how we influence the narrative of it and what direction we'd like our story to unravel into. Because, of course, things change all the time. Experiences, life events, both dramatic and simple, exciting and devastating, they're all going to have an influence on how your body reflects your story.
Yes.
And fascia is, for me, is the narrator of your story, because without it, like I say, not only do you not exist in physical form, your fascia animates your emotional happiness, joy, devastation, or fear. Your movement is revealed through your actual fascia. And I think that's something we would like to explain clearer in the language of fascia, is how does fascia communicate you and your well-being. And I think if we can get that to be more understood, people would understand how they read a story more clearly instead of get lost in the details
And the translation and
and the
the and
translation. Yeah,
hijacked by, like, a scar, for example, becomes the story. But
correct.
when that scar is subtly and gently and beautifully, the work Jan Walther does is so beautifully so-called released, this lovely word release. What I think you actually release, I think you dissolve into solution the story around it as much as anything. And it starts to restore itself as part of you.
Yes.
And what I wanted to add to what you said, and I love it, that the fascia is the narrator, the living fascia in present time is the narrator, but it's also, as a tissue of temporality, it's also a tissue that tells our history.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, I think it is also, it's not limited to being the narrator. It is also the page upon which that story is written. And I think that's where the skill comes in our work, for example, in body reading, something that we teach all our students. Everybody that works with us comes to learn about body reading, and not to nail them to a particular type or nail them down to being constricted to, oh, you are one of those, but simply so that everybody can serve themselves with somewhere to go from and begin their journey towards their own ideal optimum adaptability.
Well, I think why are we here? And I think that's the question, right? Why do humans exist? And what, if we're going to exist, what is our purpose? And I think it really is a lot simpler than people are trying to make it. And
Sometimes.
I heard somebody say this online recently, and I really like what they said. They said, there's two reasons you're here to be here, and there are no others. You're here to love and be loved.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, I love that. I couldn't
Right.
agree
Just
more.
maybe sit back and go, wow, don't we complicate
Yeah.
the initial thread of a story to unfold by making us biased to an opinion or a social etiquette or a certain community, and it's almost like you join a club and you're not allowed to explore other communities or other races or other opinions or other demographics. But ultimately, every single thing in nature is designed to thrive within its community. And humans, what makes us different is that we have compassion for each other. We are sensitive to the situation. We're not so ruthless just to thrive. And when he said that, I forget the guy's name. I should really remember his name. But he said there's just two things. If you love yourself and you want to be loved by others, then that will then come out in how you interact with your body. And we know through our work that our fascia is absolutely the template and the fabric that our history of being loved or unloved is reflected upon.
Oh,
Because all things that move in nature move with efficiency. We had this conversation recently, didn't we?
yeah.
On one of our NMIA live calls.
Yeah.
And we, in our desperation to be healthier, have longevity, live longer, achieve great goals, we don't move efficiently. We do quite the opposite. We thrive in making ourselves uncomfortable and put ourselves under
discomfort. Yeah.
Discomfort.
Yeah.
And try to achieve the most remarkable things with our body, but through pain and suffering. And yes, there's a place for stress and good stress, and there's a place to push ourselves and try to achieve great goals and attain great outcomes. But if you're not loving doing it, and you're not being loved for doing it, then why are we doing it? And I think a lot of people find themselves unloved and are not loving their story as it's unfolding in front of them today.
I must say, I have huge compassion because, I mean, for example, I remember when I received my diagnosis of breast cancer, and I just remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, seriously, I knew before they told me. I was having these biopsies, and my friend who is a GP had said to me, oh, you'll be fine. They've only called you back to check you out. You don't need to worry unless they do ultrasound. And then if you've got biopsies, you've got something to worry about. And I was 3 biopsies in within 5 minutes of arriving. And I knew, and I said to the doctor, I know I'm not supposed to know what I know, but please don't patronize me and make me wait 3 weeks and all of that. And I remember the first moment of that was this sense that somehow either I'd betrayed my body or my body had betrayed me. Like me and my body were 2 separate things. And I think this is one of the most important aspects of fascia, in the sense that, we can delve into the anatomy, the different types of fascia, the different types of collagen, how it communicates with the nervous system, its roles in movement and posture. You and I could do a podcast on every one of those subjects.
And we do, and
we do, and we will continue to. So, press subscribe, follow, and ask us questions and make comments, and we'll do them. But the key for me in that moment had nothing to do with all the anatomy I've studied, all the I've literally millions of air miles traveling around the world. I shadowed Tom Myers for 2 years. I think we worked together. I can't even tell you the conferences, the labs, everything, all of that disintegrated into this moment of who am I? What am I doing here? Why have I got this illness? What did I do to deserve this? What did I do to cause this? Because me, take major responsibility for everything. And sat there and just thought, crap, just crap.
Yeah.
And then I remember being with somebody who loves me very, very much. Just somebody in the movement that we work in and we're part of. And he just looked at me and he said, you have to learn to ask for help. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Of course I've got to ask for help. I've got to ask the doctors for help, and I've got to ask the nurses for help. And he just said, no. Not help as a victim that needs rescuing. Help as a grace. And I remember you and John Sharkey, Dr. Kelsick, Dr. Karen Kirknest, Helen Eady, everybody that has been on my podcast, everybody that I know. I felt adopted. But I couldn't receive that until I could come to a place of self-love and go, okay, kiddo, this is the deal. This is the story today. Whatever you've done, good, bad, or indifferent, today's episode is a diagnosis of breast cancer.
Yep.
Okay. And how am I going to manage that? Was the next question. And I will never forget, as long as I live, the surgeon sitting talking to me when I said, please, can I have this done as local surgery?
Yeah.
His glasses fell off his nose because he was trying to fumble for them. And he looked at me and he went, who are you? I said, well, I'm just fascinated by the tissue. He said, not a chance.
Yeah.
In heaven and earth am I going to let you watch this surgery? And he just looked at me and he said, are you mad? And I said, well, I've got to come to terms with it. And I want to understand it. And of course, I told him John Sharkey was one of my friends and he'd heard of him and his work in fascia. And he went, okay, I'll do you a deal. Because I had to have a lymphectomy as well. I had to have all the lymph nodes removed. And he said, I'm going to do this surgery and I should be keeping you in here for a few days on a drain, but I'm going to do you a deal. If you think you know what you're doing, young lady, and I'm going, I haven't got a clue. He said, I'm going to let you, I'm going to have a go at a day surgery because I want you, COVID wasn't finished. And he said, I want you out of here as quickly as possible, but you've got to make me a promise. And what happened, Paul, was this wonderful doctor. He and this nurse were just like, their eyebrows disappeared. And he looked at me and he said, I will do everything in my power to do a day surgery if you promise me that you will do everything in your power not to return. Without a drain, I don't want to know about edema. I don't want to know about scar tissue. I'm not interested in tethering, cording. I don't want any of it. I don't want you back. And I went, okay, but can I keep the lymph nodes that are okay? And he went, no. And I said, why not? He said, because we can't promise you they're clear because we haven't got the visual devices to see. We can't see them in 360 degrees until they're out because we know the body's round, right?
That's right.
And I said, okay, I got it. And I felt loved, honored, and appreciated by him. I also felt loved, honored, and appreciated by me, knowing that I had a plate to step up to.
Yeah.
And God knows you were there. And I think Wilbur phoned me every 3. I just think between all of you, I didn't go a day without 2 phone calls for maybe.
Oh, because we cared, right? And that's the whole point.
But it was like we were all in this together, and my son rocked up at the hospital and watched over me like a hawk for 10 days until I was fine. Broken wing, all that business. And that's how we developed the micro movements originally, right? Because I was on a bound to create a facility for working with my own fascia, my own type.
Yep.
And regardless, I mean, I know its anatomy, but it's like I knew about its anatomy. It was like, okay, I'm entering the medical field and they're serving me to the best of their ability. And the surgeon and the nurses and the
they're exceptional.
Right? Oh, they were exceptional. They were so lovely to me. And I came out of the surgery with an out-of-body experience. I was looking down and watching everybody and thinking, come on, Joe, it's time to come home. You're back in Earth School. Come on. And you've got a promise to keep. And that promise, he wouldn't know me from Adam now. Wouldn't have a clue who I was. But the love for his work, his craft, his care, and the nurses and the doctors was so superb. And it was there anyway. That what you said about being loved and beloved, that was my experience because somebody took the trouble to tell me to open to it. And my friend Philippa rocked up and helped me with the bandaging. And my sister my sister and my mum, I can't even tell you, they hardly left my side. But the support and the loving, I swear to God, it was almost as if the process was bigger than me. And I believe fascia is the tissue of love, light, and sound in the body. It emits light. It transmits sound. We know that, gold standard, peer-reviewed research. But it wants to love us. And I'm sharing this story. I didn't mean to when we got onto this podcast, but I'm sharing it because I swear to God, the healing process of the last 3 years has been as much down to me loving the scars and incorporating it in my body and forgiving myself for having it. And I confront that every day sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you've gone from student, tutor to client. And that's what's been magic, right? That you've done all these decades of work and diligent research and been around all the right people to absorb all the right information and try to discern what's relevant and what's useful and what's made up and what's really accurate in your interpretation of what is fascia. And then when it came down to really the nuts and bolts and your life was on the line, all of that experience and those chapters that you created in your past became useful.
But it was animated by you. I mean, you helped me move.
I know.
And you remember, even in our training videos in the Myofascial Magic in Action program, you used me as a model for one of the movements where I rediscovered my arm and motion to the next level through releasing the scar tissue.
That's fascia talking, isn't it?
Isn't it?
That's the language of fascia, is it speaks through movement.
Exactly.
Good, bad, hesitated, cautious,
Yeah.
or curious, or flamboyant.
Or scared.
It only knows, or all of the above. And however, we learn all of these amazing things and we put them into practice as much as we can. But unless you're in that situation where it really matters that you are diligent and you hold yourself accountable, we don't know if it really works. We can say it does. And through hindsight, we give lots of people foresight that they choose often to take or not take.
Yeah.
But when you're in that particular predicament, when somebody's put his career on the line and his surgical skill to good use, and then said, now over to you, Miss Avison, crack on. If you know all this, let's see what you've got in your tool
Exactly.
bag. And you did it. And the result is that other people in similar situations who are not as skilled as you, who are not as well learned as you in this particular topic, have somewhere to go to get that learning, to get that experience, to get that assistance, to get that guidance, which is what we really are. We're there to guide people rather than dictate to them, but how to understand their own fascial language. Because that's what's so important, that people are aware that it does talk. Because without, and I say this a lot, it's like, I know there's a guy going to be presenting soon in the Fascia Congress, and he's using something that I say quite a lot in his presentation, where he says, like, if we're going to talk about the fish in the sea, you have to know about the water they live in. You can't omit something that is a primary substance of the topic you're going to talk about. And you cannot talk about human movement, emotional, spiritual, or physical, unless you understand the very, very architectural fabric. Everything is based and builds and develops within. And unfortunately, whether the world likes it or not, it's called fascia. In all its guises and textures and densifications and specialist roles it has, it is simply fascia. And once you know how important it is and the roles it plays within you existing at all, and where the various locations and the various textures it comes in interact with each other to inform you of yourself and what you're going to do with yourself, then we really are walking with our eyes closed.
Well, it's fabulous what you've just said, because what I love about it is you're being so compassionate about how we interpret ourselves and the role we give ourselves. And this is something that I think is really crucial as we kind of recap on this being the page upon which the story's written, but it's also the pen and the ink in which the story's written.
Yeah.
And it's also the narrator of the story, how we tell that story. And, when we do the archetype work, and I know, just future point, the myofascial motion types is coming up soon, guys, and you have to know them. But what they do, they give us this language with which to move from where we are to where we want to be. And what I love about what you're saying is you helped me. It's not like I knew it all, for God's sake. When it comes to yourself, trust me, yourself and your close family, you turn into a 5-year-old. I don't care what anyone says, you just do. And you're standing there going, I remember when I came out of hospital and I had cramp in my legs, and John was on the phone to me and he's going, well, slow down. And I'm like, what do you mean? My legs are cramping. He said, well, of course, you're asking too much of them. They've just been through the biggest deal. Will you slow down? Don't do anything. Lie on the bloody sofa. And I'm like, I can't lie on the sofa. I've got to get moving. No.
Yeah, sometimes you need to understand the word rest.
Keep still and rest.
Right.
So just as we go over this is like, what we're saying is that the fascia speaks us to us, and we can choose archetypally, because it's the back and the front of the same coin, whether we take on the victim or the victor.
Yep, exactly.
And the victor comes in, I believe, to go back to what you said before, is when we love ourselves, we forgive ourselves, we honor ourselves, and we permit ourselves to be loved. And, my spiritual teacher, JR, has a beautiful phrase: you are the one you are looking for. And I was listening to a piece that Will Smith did the other day about how it always ends up with you. You're the one that's there. And I think if we can highlight this kind of newfound appreciation for fascia, its language isn't actually secret. It's there to be read because it's, in a way, it's already spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And you're listening to how it speaks itself in its own way, forgiving it if it's tricky or in a language that you don't understand, and being willing to listen.
I think some people don't want to listen. They certainly don't want to hear the clear message that is being given. Others need subtitles that explain to them more carefully, maybe because your body speaks quite harshly, because people have a very different interpretation and perspective of what they think they look like, how they think they move, to the reality of what they actually look like or how they actually move. And that can go in every direction of the spectrum of archetypes, from the hero to the victim, like you say. So I think it's really important that people are kind to themselves and kind to each other, so we can help each other see the real you, so that you're performing and you're animating your life how you'd like to be perceived by others. And in the reality is, you can only be you, no matter what people say about you or what you think about yourself. Your true self always reveals itself. You can't hide behind, you can't fake it forever.
I love that.
Eventually your body goes, this is me.
This is it.
Like it or lump it.
Exactly. And that like it or lump it comes down to what we know to be the first law of spirit, which is acceptance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Accept it.
All my love, thank you.
Pleasure.
And anyone out there listening, please give us a comment on your experience of listening to your fascia. Don't forget to press subscribe. Those of you that are teaching people movement or manual therapy, just send us a message, arrange a call, and hear about our fabulous course, because it's all about actually the 5 movement archetypes, the 5 R's of working with everybody. And what we actually teach you to do is take what we call micro movement medicine and learn how to dose and degree it so that your client can meet whatever practice you specialize in. It is non-denominational. It's a bit like spirit, isn't it? It's finding the language of spirit in movement.
It's the universal language of movement. Who
I
does that?
love
The
it.
universal language.
And thank you, because I love working with you. That's
My
how it
pleasure.
is.
Enjoyed it. Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.